another episode of Fragomen FC, the podcast where immigration meets the world of football and beyond. I'm Jake Paul Minster, and today we've got a truly exciting episode lined up. Joining us from Amsterdam are two fantastic guests with deep ties to both immigration and football. First, we have Tuğba Özyakup, a senior associate at Fragomen's Amsterdam office. Tuğba is an expert in Dutch immigration law, guiding both private individuals and corporations through visa and residency matters across the Netherlands and the broader EU. And as a football fan, she's the perfect guest for today's discussion. But that's not all. We also have her cousin, Ozzy Özyakup, a former professional footballer. Ozzy has played for some of Europe's top clubs, including Arsenal and Besiktas, winning multiple league titles along the way. He also represented the Netherlands and Turkey on the international stage, including at Euro 2016. And fun fact, Rick, this one's for you. He even played alongside your fellow countryman, Kyle Larin. Ozzy and Tuğba, thank you for joining us.
Okay, well, let's dive right in. Tuğba, the Netherlands is a hotspot for highly skilled migrants, entrepreneurs, and of course, professional athletes. Can you give us an overview of the key immigration pathways available for people looking to move to the Netherlands, whether they're footballers, business professionals, or expats?
Yes, of course. Well, the Netherlands is a very little country, but it's an huge country which allows a lot of talent in the Netherlands. We have also the so-called fast track processes in the Netherlands where companies can apply at the Dutch immigration authorities to be recognized, which means that they can have a favor of fast track processes. Even within 2 weeks, you can have an approval on the residence permit, which is like unique and compared with other European countries. Netherlands is very open for talent from abroad. Just a side note that there are also some different rules applicable for Turkish nationals based on the Ankara Agreement and also for US nationals based on the, it sounds funny, DAFT permit, which is the Dutch American Friendship Treaty. It's very open for talent, the Netherlands.
Perfect. That's a great overview, Tugba. Thank you very much. So now I would like to talk football a little bit. So for that, let's bring Ozzy into the conversation. Ozzy, you were born in the Netherlands, but played internationally for Turkey. You even had the unique experience of representing both countries at different points of your career. That's just awesome. What was that like, Ozzy? How does nationality factor seen on a footballer's career, on your career? And is it true that your first international goal for Turkey was against precisely the Netherlands on the 2016 qualifier? That must have been a very special moment.
Yeah, thank you. I get that a lot, because I was, of course, lucky that I was born in the Netherlands. And in Netherlands, we have many cultures, many people with different backgrounds. And I grew up also nearby Amsterdam, a lot of people. And yeah, and I played for Holland in the youth. I was the captain of the national team, Dutch national team, from under 15 till under 19. But then, obviously, you have when you get to the main stage, you have to make a decision whether you want to play for Holland or for Turkey. But like everyone knows, both my parents they are Turkish, and that's a decision that I made. Not by thinking about my career or whatever, but more what's in my heart. What I got from my house, my parents, my family. Tuba is my cousin, and at the end, I thought that I felt more Turkish than Dutch. But of course, I appreciate everything what Holland, Netherlands gave me. So and actually, yeah, and I was lucky enough. I think I played more than 20 games for Turkey at that moment, and then we had the important game against the Netherlands, and it was for the Euros 2016 in France, and I scored the first goal in the seventh minute, and I think after that game everyone was asking me how do you feel about it, because you played for the Netherlands and now you scored against the Netherlands. But at that moment I didn't think about it much, because you're just in a flow and you're playing, and then you think about it months later or even now, and now I can say that that feeling was great. But at that moment you can't really enjoy it, because you already have a next game in 3 or 4 days. So now when I think back about it, it's really a different thing that not many people or many football players get to know.
That must have been incredible, like you said. I'll ask you later whether you actually celebrated. Um, but playing professionally in different countries, obviously comes with some challenges. I guess the question I have is, how did you adapt to new cultures or even languages? I guess in your case, you were able to speak Dutch and Turkish, so it might have been easier for you. But from your experience playing with so many different teammates from around the world, was there anything like from an immigration perspective, that you found to be a challenge, or that perhaps some of your teammates found challenging?
Yeah, I think, I said it before. I was lucky enough to be born in Holland and raised in nearby Amsterdam. Because, for example, when I played for the Dutch national team under 15 and under 17, especially, we had a team which included, we had like I was Turkish, my parents were Turkish, but I had a teammate who was from Afghanistan, Dutch passport, of course, born in Holland, but from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Suriname, from Cape Verde. So we had many players who were not originally Dutch. So I was raised with them, and for me, of course we have different cultures, but for me, the culture also is something what you get from home. Even two Turkish families can have different cultures. This is really important thing. And I think I was also lucky that I left my house when I was 15. I went to England, and I think that was a challenge for me, for example, because my English wasn't that good. So speaking with people outside football was difficult because I think on the pitch everybody speaks the same language, so you can understand each other. But also the culture. I wouldn't say the weather because the weather was similar to Holland. It was always raining, so that wasn't a thing. But in football, that's a nice thing. We just spoke about it. You are from Canada, and I played. I think my most games with a Canadian player. I think it's Atiba Hutchinson. I played more than 150.
Former
So we
captain
were,
of the national
yeah,
team.
and he is the
Amazing.
second most, second oldest player who ever played in a World Cup, and but that was actually my big brother in football. I always call him my big brother because he is the one that I played the most games with. But you have a strong connection, even though he's from Canada, and I think his wife is Iranian. It's all different, but that's what makes football, I think, also so special. It brings so many things, so many cultures together. And with of course it has challenges about that kind of stuff. But for example, when I went to Turkey, yeah, my parents are Turkish, and I know the food, I know the weather, I know the people. So that wasn't really a very big thing for me. But to England, yeah, and also with my age, I was 15. I had to go with the host family for 2 years. So getting used to the food also was different. And especially at that age. But the more you grow, you realize that, yeah, football really is, even when there's war in the world. When people watch football, then everybody comes together. So that's the nice thing about football, I think. Well, I should call it soccer, I think.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Please don't.
Please don't. It's fine. Yeah, Tiba Hutchinson. That's right. The second oldest player to ever play in a World Cup behind Roger Mila,
Yeah,
team captain, former team captain for Canada. That's right. So
actually, I have. If you want, I can get his shirt. I remember now.
I
I
will
have his
take his
shirt.
shirt and I will place it. I will place it right up here. I've already
Okay,
got. I will place up here. I will do that. Absolutely. What an offer.
because I
Thank
have
you.
his shirt. I have more. I have, I think, 2 or 3 shirts, and one of it is from the World Cup qualifiers.
I mean, we'll talk after the episode.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, Thank you so much, Ozzy. That's really great background. Tugba, I do have a question for you. I mean, since this podcast is all about sort of the intersection between football and immigration, let's talk just a little bit about how foreign players can join Dutch clubs, in particular those from outside the EU zone. Um, can you just sort of touch on some of the requirements? Does it make a difference if they're already an EU citizen coming from outside the EU?
Yes, I think what a lot of people forget is they only see on TV the soccer games, etc., but they forget how we come to that transfers of huge football players. And in the Netherlands, the rule is if you want to work, you need a work permit. This is, of course, not applicable for EU nationals, so I will accept that from these conversations because we are in the European Union and you have free movement, etc. But for different visa nationals, there is a work permit requirement. And for top sport, we have in the Dutch legislation some exemptions on the process, but it still takes some time. So it's not something you can arrange within 1 day or 2 days. There needs to be a whole assessment behind it. So it's an application with the Dutch immigration authorities where you provide um, the proof because you're on a labor contract, and that labor contract needs to go via an assessment. And after the assessment is approved, you will get a work permit. But after receiving the physical work permit, you are allowed to start working. We have faced with some football players that the deadline with the transfer periods and to apply for the residence permit doesn't come along with each other, and then you are facing difficulties that you not can start already playing for your new club. So it is definitely advised to be very proactive and very early with the start of the process, but it's always last minute. There will be always last minute applications, and the Dutch immigration authorities are aware of that. But the process is unfortunately based on our legislation. But there are definitely some ways to expedite it in a quicker way.
So, too, but the Netherlands has always been a international hub for talent. So, what are some of the common challenges that players or even regular visa applicants are facing when they're applying for a Dutch visa residence permit? How much does their country's citizenship impact the process?
I think it's also based on their nationality, indeed, and the documents they need to gather from their own, like birth certificates. For some countries, it takes like for months to have that legalized process, and that takes a lot of time. For the Netherlands, we have all the processes set up. There could be indeed some circumstances where there is a delay from the authorities' perspective, but that's not common. So we are not facing that issue in the Netherlands. It could be also that they have some, the Dutch immigration authorities, that they have some additional questions to the contract, the labor agreement, because with the assessment, you need to provide that that person is market conform. So if there is an international talent on a sport level, you need to prove that that person is the right person for your club. So that means also that the person needs to play in the same kind of level, that you will pass the assessment in a quicker way. But most issue from my experience is document gathering.
God, I think that's also probably an issue in all of our practice is document gathering and the amount of documents that you actually need in order to submit an application. I think for people who are going through the immigration process for the first time, they're very, very surprised when we ask for everything that we ask for, and we ask for it because we obviously need it to submit a successful application. But Tuba, you mentioned earlier that there was a special provision for Turkish nationals based on the EU-Turkey Association Agreement. Can you break that down for us?
Yes, of course. Indeed, we have back then when our grandparents were invited to work for the Netherlands, there was an agreement with Turkey to provide earlier access and to treat Turkish nationals the same as a Dutch national, which also means that some legislation are not applicable for Turkish nationals because they need to have the same treatment as a Dutch national. You can think about lower fees. You can think about the non-recognized sponsorship is allowed for Turkish nationals. You can think about after 12 months working for the same employment, you can have already rights as a Turkish national. So there are a lot of yeah exemptions for Turkish nationals in the Netherlands.
Oh, that's great to hear too. But it's very enlightening. Thank you for sharing that. It's a very streamlined process. Quite interesting. Thank you very much for that. And Osi, going back to you and ending on a fold note for this episode, you have an outstanding career. I was really wondering if you could share some of your favorite moments and stories from your time on the pitch, whether it's an unbelievable goal, the one closest to your heart, a wild transfer, or fun locker room moments. We'd love to hear some of your most cherished stories, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I think the most favorite one. I became champion in Turkey 3 times, and the first one is always special. The first one was nice, and I think my goal against Holland, that will be something. I also have a picture of it at my house. That's a moment that I will never forget because I was born and raised in Holland, and but I scored against them in a really important game. But actually, I have a good story about Kyle Larin because he was my really good friend, and we had that season our third championship, and we were sitting in the locker room with the physios and the masseurs, so my medical team. So we were sitting, and Kyle, I think by then had 14 goals or something. He really had a good season, 14 goals in the league. So I said to the medical staff, I said, listen, if Kyle reaches the 20 goals, I will buy all of you a new iPhone. And they were with 10 or something, so I was a little bit shaky. So I went, yeah, I didn't tell Kyle nothing. And actually we had, I think, 6 or 7 games left, and he starts scoring 15, 16, 17, 18, and just about really he finished, I think, at with 19 goals, and I didn't have to buy them. And then the season finished, I went to Kyle, I said, Kyle, thank you. He said, for what? I said, if you scored one more goal, I would have bought everyone an iPhone. So this was really a funny story.
Fantastic.
And
This
then,
is this has been so much fun. Ozzy, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experiences with us. I know Rick has his favorite question to
That's
ask at the
right.
end of the show. So
This,
Rick,
this,
I'll give it to you.
thank you, Jake. So, Ozzy, we ask all of our guests at the end of the episode. Obviously, the podcast is related to the World Cup 2026. This is obviously a replica, but this is what everyone's
Yeah.
playing for. And we'd like to know your opinion on who you think will be holding the real version of this in 2026.
Who I think, yeah, I think Turkey, I want Turkey to win.
Sure.
But if I think about it, then I think, yeah, France has a very very strong squad. They are so good. So I think France will be one of the really really favorites of the tournament. But if you say who do you want it to win, yeah, then either it has to be Turkey or Canada.
I feel the same way about Canada. I really want them to be there. I just don't know if we'll get too far. But getting to the knockout stages, I think, is a possibility. Being a host country.
Yeah,
Tugba, what do you think?
definitely.
Before Ozzy was already, I thought also about France because yeah, they are indeed very strong, and we are following the football players in different leagues. So I think they have the best team for the moment.
It's not bad answers,
What
and
do you
the
think,
comment you had.
Rick?
Well, I think in past episodes I've said France as well. I think they're just really strong from the back on out,
Yeah,
and it's not always about the strikers, although they have world class strikers, but they're strong every position. It's really difficult. Anything can happen in a one game sort of knockout stage. We've seen
yeah,
this throughout time, but I think Argentina might be a little bit long in the tooth. Brazil is still sort of in a bit of a
searching.
recalibration.
Yeah,
Spain is always a threat.
Yeah, you
We can't
can't.
forget Spain, and I
yeah,
think even
a lot
even a
of
team
young
like
players.
England, they always seem to get close, and then it's just something happens where they just lack a bit of quality. They get a bit of bad luck, and then everyone goes crazy. So I do think though France is the most stable of all of them, the easiest pick to make, but with 48 teams, it means extra games. and which means that strange things could happen. I mean, we've gone
Except,
from
and with a tournament, it's definitely like you say, it's the moment also. You can be a very good team, but just don't have the moment. Just that 2 weeks of group stage, you will not
yep.
be in form, you know. And also a question: is Sergio from? You are from Mexico?
Yes, Ozzy.
Yeah,
Mexico
because
City.
I when I went to Arsenal, I think I was 15, and just 1 year later, I played with Carlos Vela,
Oh,
the
really?
striker. Yeah,
The
I think he
striker,
played
yeah.
also. He played in LA.
Yep, LAFC.
Yes, he did. He
LAFC.
Yeah,
did.
Yeah, no, Ozzy, thank you so much. I mean,
yeah,
what incredible stories. And it's crazy. You played with two of Canada's, I mean, Atiba Hutchinson has been in this program. You must have talked to him about it. I mean, he's been in the Canada. This guy was in the Canada program when we were losing to Honduras 6-1,
yeah,
7-1, a
yeah.
really low point in the program.
I
And so
know.
for them to get to where they
Yeah,
will get to Qatar.
I've talked to him about this for a very long time because I was curious, because I just know about the Canada footballs like soccer team the last few years, and
Mhm.
then they have really good players. And I said, why didn't you play many World Cups or And he said, we have come from really far, far away.
Yeah, I remember. I'll tell you a little story. Before we let you go. Obviously, Concacaf qualifying has its own sort of particularities, and there was a point where we had to play pre-rounds to get to the final round. We called it the hex. So 6 teams, a hexagon, and out of those 6 teams, 3 teams would advance, and so you had to get to that final 6. And Canada was
Yeah,
at such a point we couldn't even get into
yeah,
that hex. We couldn't even get in the final 6, and there was one home and away against Honduras. So we tie Honduras, or I think we beat Honduras or whatever. It was 1-0, I think, in Toronto. We go back to San Pedro Sula on a national holiday. The stadium holds 35,000. There are 45,000 people in the ground. Okay, the
yeah,
stadium is shaking. It's
yeah,
shaking, and I know this because I have a very good friend. He covers sports in Canada, so he's
yeah,
flown down to cover the game. And the moment you saw the team walk in for the anthems, I watched and I just thought to myself, you could
yeah,
see on their faces, they're looking around like, where are we right now?
yeah,
And it was just Honduras just came in waves. I think the
yeah,
final was like 6-1. And
yeah,
that was a low point. And from there, Alfonso Davies, Kyle Larin, Jonathan
yeah,
David.
David,
Atiba
yeah,
was the one constant. Atiba was the guy who stayed constant. And I think for anyone who's followed it, he's the one guy that people were happiest for because he
yeah,
was the one who was the constant guy throughout, who
yeah,
understood how low we were and how
yeah.
high we got. And it didn't matter how we did
Yeah,
in Qatar.
yeah,
You win, okay, great. We were
yeah,
leading Croatia for 10 minutes.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So anyway, listen, it's been so fun having you on. We
yeah.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it, Tuba. Thank you.